Alright, quick disclaimer before this video starts. This video is going to cover the entirety of OneShot, which means there are going to be spoilers. If you haven't played it yet, I highly recommend that you do. It's a top-down puzzle game that has a lot of fourth wall breaking stuff and a phenomenal story. It's only like $10 on Steam too. If any of this seems remotely interesting to you and you haven't played it already, please go ahead and pause this video and go do that, or else a lot of stuff might not make sense. Alright, done playing it? Solstice 2? If you don't know what Solstice is, go back into the game files and open the clover.exe program again. I'll let you pause the video once more. Alright, done crying? Let's get started on the video. Over the years, I've played my fair share of indie games. I mean, my entire Steam library is basically indie games. Some of them are great, some of them are okay, and some of them are... hey, this game was free, I can't complain. But out of the many great ones I've played, the one that stands out to me the most is OneShot. Something about it has just always stood out to me since I played it in 2019. So today, I'm gonna take the magic that I felt and absolutely crush it to pieces by overanalyzing every aspect of it. Okay, that might be a bit of an exaggeration, but I had to delete my permanent save file to record footage for this video, so don't say I never did anything for you. Just to be clear, I'm gonna be focusing on the 2016 Steam release, not the 2014 version or the World Machine Edition, which at the time of recording this video is still not released. So, let's start by analyzing one of the most important aspects to any game, the gameplay. The gameplay of OneShot is... well, it's there. I can't really say too much about the gameplay. It's your standard RPG Maker game with a tile-based movement system and a whole lot of stuff to interact with. Now, I personally don't mind games that follow this formula and actually quite enjoy it. The inherent problem with games in this style is their appeal. A lot of people just can't get into this style of games, and I don't blame them. While there are some really great puzzles in the game, most of your time will be spent walking around looking for items or talking to people to hear what they have to say. The fast travel system helps shorten the amount of time spent backtracking, but even without any backtracking, you're still going to spend a lot of time staring at Niko walking. And that's where the main issue lies. OneShot doesn't really feel like a game. It's more like you're watching Niko go through the world while you have limited control of what's actually happening there. Story-wise, designing the game like this is actually perfect and makes a lot of sense. But choosing this approach for the gameplay will drive a lot of people away from playing it, only attracting the few who enjoy this niche style. And you know what? I'm completely on board with this. Let me explain. Say you're making a game purely for profit. In this case, you'll want it to appeal to as many people as possible to increase your sales. However, if you were to narrow your audience, you may not sell as many copies. While this may not seem like a smart decision, it still has its benefits, as you can design your game around this particular audience, improving their experience with it. By not focusing on trying to make sure your game appeals to everybody, you can spend more time perfecting parts designed for a specific audience, making them want to buy your game even more. Not everybody can enjoy a game that's made up of mostly text boxes, but people who do enjoy reading lots of dialogue will probably enjoy OneShot's gameplay. OneShot is not a game for everyone, but if you enjoy the kind of game it is, chances are you will enjoy it a lot. Although, I would be lying if I said that walking and talking is all OneShot has going for its gameplay. You'll also have to solve some puzzles. Because it's an RPG Maker game, a lot of OneShot's puzzles follow the formula of use this item on this object. However, OneShot goes a step further with its fourth wall breaking puzzles. These puzzles are just... wow. I didn't even know you could do this kind of stuff in RPG Maker. Going through your documents folder, dragging your window outside your screen, changing my desktop wallpaper, why can it do that? These puzzles feel fresh and creative, and most of them are surprisingly intuitive. One thing these puzzles have going for them that I don't see talked about a lot is their accessibility. Some people might love OneShot, but not really know how to work a computer too well. If you're like me, you may have found these puzzles a bit on the easy side, but even if you solve these puzzles with ease, at the very least, they're interesting. I don't really like the hint system that the game gives you, but I can understand why its inclusion would be necessary. While the non-meta puzzles might not be as interesting as these crazy ones, they're still pretty good, as well as a bit humorous. This robot's been sitting here so long that he's rusted and can't move. You need to sign a waiver to get past the gatekeeper, but he doesn't have a pen, and can't leave his post. You have to go through this weird mastermind-esque security system in order to get to Kip, because why wouldn't Kip have a weird security system?
Okay, that last one felt a bit forced.
These puzzles are simple, yet still manage to have a unique charm to them. I think the worst puzzle the game has to offer would strangely be the first meta puzzle. When the game told me that the code to the safe no longer existed in this world, my first thought was, oh, let me go check the game files to see if there's anything there. This ended up causing me to spoil the later puzzles that involved changing your desktop background. I didn't manage to find the code in the files and had to go back for a hint, only to find out that it wanted me to go to my Documents folder. Be honest, when was the last time you checked your Documents folder? In retrospect, storing puzzle solutions in the game's local files is just asking for trouble, but I think this could be fixed by emphasizing the Documents folder without asking for a hint, or by storing it on the user's desktop, really anything that wouldn't cause the player to accidentally spoil themselves. I don't think this is a bad puzzle, it could just be a bit better. Other than this small hiccup, I only have compliments for the puzzles. Oh shoot, I gotta include a section about the graphics. They're pixelated graphics? It's an RPG Maker game. Of course it's gonna have pixelated graphics. The graphics work well enough, and I don't have much to say about them. Although I will say that I like the inclusion of character portraits. It really adds more flavor to the game. In terms of graphical user interface, the game feels like it could have done a bit better. Not having a map isn't much of a problem, as each section of the world is already pretty small, although the fast travel system really suffers from using a text box. The location descriptions can be too vague, so you'll usually have to fast travel to them at least once before you know where you're going to go. The inventory system works well enough, the portraits next to the items are nice, and having the currently equipped items shown on the bottom right really helps. I rate OneShot's graphics a solid good out of 10. That's nice and all, but I haven't even started on the game's strongest aspect, its storytelling. Video games are supposed to be an interactive medium, so having your story as the main selling point in a game with a whole lot of this doesn't seem very smart. If you wanted to tell a story with little to no player interaction, why not do something like write a book? Well, OneShot can only really work in an interactive medium such as video games because of how personal it gets with the player. Instead of a story where you play as someone who goes through a journey, OneShot makes you play as yourself in the real world. The game makes it clear that you, the player, are a part of the story at the very beginning when it calls you out by name. Normally, if you die in a game, the in-game universe could phrase it like, oh, the main character wasn't good enough and perished. But if Niko were to die, the in-game universe would say that you did it. You killed Niko. By making the real-life player an integral part of the story, every moment starts to feel more personal, like you actually have a real relationship with Niko. Speaking of which, let's talk about Niko. If there's one thing I hate in games, it's when the main character is boring or annoying, or both. Thankfully, OneShot doesn't have either of these problems. On the surface level, Niko is your stereotypical forced into this situation character, but as you play the game, you can see Niko's personality show through their dialogue, whether that be curiosity, kindness, or childlike traits. Oh yeah, I forgot, Niko is a literal child, making it that much more important to protect them. For someone who's a child, they sure seem to be handling all this death and existential crisis quite well. Oh. Never mind. Every line of dialogue that Niko says is full of personality, yet never feels too forced. Not to mention how you can actually talk to Niko. I cannot tell you how happy I was when I managed to convince Niko to do a robot voice, only for them to get embarrassed when realizing there's a robot in the room. Or being able to get Niko to write a random Roomba in an apartment and getting an achievement simply titled, "We Ride at Dawn." These interactions can be a bit limiting, usually only giving you 2 options to choose from, and towards the end of the game, just straight up forcing you to say something. Although, to be fair, I don't think anybody would have picked an option saying, "Oh yeah, Niko, by the way, all of these guys are definitely dead." Even so, these conversations help make Niko feel that much more real. But the developers didn't just stop there. You want a likable character? How about we just fill the entire world with them? OneShot's characters are just great. Every single one of them has some distinct personality. The Lamplighter is an awkward workaholic, Calamus just wants to protect his sister Alula, and then there's George, who has 6 different personalities that are randomly chosen for each player. Even side characters that you only ever see once feel distinct. There's this guy with a scarf commenting on how he likes Niko's scarf, this girl spinning around like the tower despite Niko telling her that she's gonna get dizzy, this plush penguin, okay not that guy. There's a note on the desk by some guy letting people use his tape and stapler, and when they disappear the note just reads, "Who took my stapler?" Every one of these characters feel fleshed out, while also not feeling overwhelming. Just like the characters, the general world building in this game is phenomenal. There's so many little details in all the dialogue and notes scattered throughout. You can read a note talking about the laws of robotics and how a robot can never harm a human, meet a robot named Silver later, find a letter addressed to her from someone named Kip, meet Kip later and notice that she looks suspiciously similar to Silver, confront her about it, and find out that Silver went berserk before becoming more tame and staying in the Barrens. And that's just one small detail out of the many this game has to offer. There are so many interactable objects placed throughout rooms in the game, a lot of which at least give a small idea of how the world is like right now. There's books about why phosphor shrimp are used, scientists researching how to more efficiently use water, people studying the squares that show up, the old world, the author, tamed robots, the list just goes on. Furthermore, OneShot's atmosphere is heavily enhanced by its music. For example, this is the song that plays when you travel through the Glen. It gives off this incredibly peaceful, yet somewhat lonely vibe, which of course matches the Glen. Or, when you first enter the refuge, this song plays. It definitely reflects the feeling of exploring a large, unknown city pretty well. However, when you re-enter the refuge when the world is incredibly unstable, this song plays instead. Just a change in track switches the entire atmosphere from traversing a huge and mysterious city to witnessing the world on its last stand, desperately trying to survive as everything falls apart. Whether you're witnessing Alula's carefree attitude or flying in a plane for the first time, the music is there to make the overall experience better. Just to add a bit of extra spice to the world, OneShot sprinkles in its fair share of missable secrets. Remember my rant about Silver's lore earlier? Yeah, that's completely missable by the way. Just to name a few, you can barter with the trader to get a Ram t-shirt that gives you access to the Ram room. Getting some additional items in the Glen and Refuge allows you to replant Maze when she dies, unlocking an additional artwork during the end credits. Typing in "Hello Penguin" on the countdown door during a non-Solstice run lets you see "Hello" this. And my personal favorite, the Steam page for the game has a link to the OneShot website, but if you combine that link with the letters that are in italics under the game description, which spells out Solstice, you get taken to this special web page. Every single detail added to this game makes the world feel that much more alive, which is what makes the final choice that much harder. If you don't remember or haven't played the game for some reason, despite me telling you to, at the end of OneShot, you're given a choice. Destroy the sun and return Niko home, or put the sun back and save this fake world, trapping Niko inside of it. Having the entirety of the game and the relationship you've built with Niko come down to this one choice is, to put simply, really heavy. A morality test like this was not something I was ready for when I first played this game, and that's a good thing. The shock of learning that you can't save both Niko and the world, the long elevator ride where you have to explain to Niko the situation they're in, telling Niko what choice to make, it puts so much pressure on the player. If you've played the game, I don't even have to explain much about this moment. No matter what choice you make, Niko will follow through and trust your judgment. Chances are, regardless of what choice you made, you'll be thinking for a while about whether or not you made the right one. And after that choice, there's nothing left for you in the game. That is, if you're not determined enough. Most of you guys probably know what the Solstice run is. If you don't remember, after the game ends, if you open up the clover.exe file, then you'll see a message asking you if you're able to delete the save file. Upon deleting the save file and reopening the game, you're taken to the title screen. Hooray! Now you can re-experience the game again. Except, this time, things are different. As soon as Niko wakes up, they'll immediately call out your name, not knowing why. This immediately tells the player, hey, things are different now. And indeed, things are different. Solstice manages to make the same rooms that you traveled through in the first run feel entirely different with a few contextual changes. You may have ignored the numbers on the robot buildings on your first run, but now you need to know them for a puzzle. Remember this pathway blocked by blocks? Well, now Niko remembers that you can just kick the blocks. The new character interactions help Solstice feel unique as well. Niko accidentally calling Calamus by his name before meeting him, and the lamplighter trying not to swear around Niko is just perfect to me. I'm also a big fan of the new characters introduced. Prototype, Cedric, Rue, and the World Machines are all interesting new characters with unique personality traits, whether that be apathy, wisdom, or the ability to make you cry. There's a lot of death in the Solstice run that I was not ready for. Seeing characters like Alula being doomed to die just made me go, why? Why her? Even Maze, who already dies in the normal run, made me upset when she had to die again in a more painful way. Hold on, wait a second. Is that a pun? Is her name Maze? Like, corn? How have I not noticed that? As you would expect, Niko handles all this death perfectly fine. Solstice feels like the perfect knot that ties OneShot together, covering up all the loose ends such as the author, the entity, and Rue that remain unexplained in the first run. I love how well Solstice is foreshadowed as well, with the bird siblings talking about their friend with a plane and Solstice Day, Rue asking you to come back if you can, even small things like Niko mentioning they see a yellow glow in the mines. The new dialogue, more story, the extended lore, what's not to love about Solstice? Well, the main problem with Solstice is how easy it is to miss it. People who enjoyed the fourth wall breaking aspect of the game, such as myself, probably went to the files after they finished the game to see if there were any secrets. These people are rewarded with a secret that basically doubles the game's length and provides an incredible story. Finding the Solstice run is incredibly satisfying because you get there with very little guidance and only a bit of foreshadowing. But this lack of guidance can lead to a lot of players not knowing there's more to the game. The ending of the first run already feels like a complete ending, even if there's still some plot holes left unpatched. So having a hidden second run isn't something that players would probably expect. Again, it's easy for people like me, but maybe do something like putting a .txt file on the user's desktop that nudges the player in the right direction. Then again, if the game constantly told you about Solstice, then you wouldn't get the same satisfaction. This gives the developers an interesting decision they have to make, where if they give too many hints about Solstice, then it won't feel as impactful, but if they give too little hints, then nobody will be able to find it. I think they made the right choice in hiding Solstice, it just could have been done a bit better. A surprisingly large chunk of players love the game, yet don't know Solstice exists. Now, I know OneShot isn't the first game to include all this meta stuff, but it's handled so elegantly in the game that it never feels too forced, especially Solstice. With a few exceptions, all the fourth wall breaks feel fresh and creative that go beyond just saying, hey, look, here's our hidden file. Aligning the Clover program with the game window is fun to figure out, and the world going into a temporary stasis when you close it is a pretty neat concept. Having a major part of the game's story rely on the fourth wall is an incredibly risky move, but OneShot handles it perfectly. Speaking of the story, I haven't actually touched on the actual plot too much, just how it works. So, let's talk about what I think of the story. I like it. Look, literary analysis isn't my strongest skill. In fact, I'm pretty bad at it, so I can't really say much here that would give the game justice. However, I can say this. OneShot's story is incredible. It's a whole roller coaster of emotions, each of which is handled incredibly well. Whether the scene is comedic, exciting, or sad, it's all perfectly portrayed and is one of the few games where I genuinely laughed, felt scared, or even cried while playing it. The themes of morality, hope, and what's considered living are excellently illustrated, something I haven't seen done as well since the Talos Principle. The lore for this game is also, really good. Wow, I sound like a third grader. How about this? OneShot's story is so good that I can't even begin to describe it. Yeah, that sounds smart. So, I will conclude with these words. OneShot is not a game for everybody. Its main gameplay can get repetitive and sometimes leaves you feeling unrewarded. But if you can get past this, then you are greeted by some of the most creative and unique puzzles that video games have to offer, characters full of life and personality, and a story that can bring you to tears. Sure, it may have some flaws, all games do, but its strengths are so strong that they more than make up for the flaws. While not everyone can enjoy this game, I can safely say that I definitely did. It's by far one of my favorite games of all time, and has inspired me to work on my own personal projects. So, to the developers of the game, I'll just say, thanks. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Thanks. I know I said I wouldn't make many more commentary videos on this channel, but I'm starting to reassess and realize that these are the kind of videos that I enjoy making. I might still upload personal achievements such as Farewell Golden if I ever get it, but for now, I'm gonna try to focus on uploading random video essays related to video games, so look forward to that in the future. I don't exactly have an upload schedule planned, which I apologize for, but hey, that gives you more of an incentive to subscribe. Speaking of which, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like. And if you didn't enjoy it, well, sorry for wasting almost half an hour of your time. I want to thank the developers once more for making such a great game. If you haven't already, go support the devs and buy OneShot right now. That's about all I have to say, so once again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.